Okay, we're back again. This is uh, Unconditional Surrender is the game. This is the C.U.C.U campaign. Stands for Cripple UK, Collapse USSR. We are going into I'm Dren608. If you like what you see, hit the thumbs up button. If you really like what you see, go ahead and subscribe and hit the notify button. And you'll be notified whenever I upload another video or when I schedule a stream. This game is developed by GMT, developed by Vasta, published by GMT Games, and developed by Mark Dye. We are getting ready to go into December of 1943. We just did the December turn so we could end the year, and then we can have a proper playlist of just 1943, and then we'll have one for 1944, and so on. So we rolled the weather at the end of the last turn. Everything came up poor, and we're just going to go ahead and get started here. I'm going to put this up here because that's going to show up real quick. We go through this. There's no declarations of war because there's nobody to declare war on. We go and we do the production here. The Germans are at 34. They're down a couple of factories, so they're down 3. So that puts them at 12 plus 5, so that's 17 is 34. Then they give a couple points to their allies. The Russians are 38. The British are at 28. And the Americans give the Irish 1. Germans give 2 to their allies. I think they gave 1 to Sweden and 1 to Romania, maybe. Right. We don't need to see this right now. That's the economies. Now we go into strategic warfare. The Germans do have 10 conquered countries, so the Soviets will be at +4. The Germans will be at +3 because they have an airplane in Norway and they have Basra, Kuwait area. So that's where we're at, and then we go into combat commitment. I throw the partisans out there to try and keep chipping away at the Germans. He rolled a 1 plus 3 and was halved, so he's down to a 2. So no matter what I roll at +4, I'm going to get him. So he loses a factory. It goes up to 4. But then when we go, and I get my partisans back in 2 turns. Then we go over to the west. I had a whole bunch of bombed markers, so I was like +8 to his +6. He threw out the submarines. I didn't have anything to throw with the west. So he's going to have my die roll, and then he rolled a 5 plus 6 is an 11, so he's guaranteed of getting his factory back no matter what I roll. And I rolled a 4 plus 8, which was a 12. Halved down to a 6 was actually enough to make me lose a factory for the UK. And then he got 3 turns on his submarines. Took us out of there. We go to strategic movement. He takes an armored unit from somewhere. I'm not sure exactly where the 3rd Panzer was. I think it might have been down around Spain or something. And he goes and puts that in Copenhagen because he wants to really contain any kind of breakout. He's been in a couple games where the Allies have made life miserable for the Germans by coming from the north, so he's trying to prevent that. I didn't see one for the West. I didn't see one for the Soviets, I don't think. I think I had made a strategic move previously with the Soviets. 24.99. Yeah, I had moved an armored unit here earlier, and now it's leaving. So we have the actions for the Axis. They moved the Swede up here, so he's threatening to run around behind Trondheim next turn. And in order to keep him in supply, you had to move the Liguria up here to keep him in supply down the rail line into Sweden. What else do we? Oh, we found that I had left the partisans marker on there, so we rolled now and counted from last turn. So it'll come back in February. And then he was trying to figure out where his airplane could move from. The airplane in Portugal there can move up to Brest, so that's what he does. Then he goes and attacks the American bomber to try and cut down my bombing campaign, which makes sense. Because I'm even in poor weather, he's like a -1 and I'm minus ridiculous. I'm -5, so. And he rolled a 4 -1, which is 3, so he gets the bomber. What else did he do? Not sure what else he did here. 4th Panzer Army. Oh, he moved the Panzer Army up to trying to get it out of Spain. He's just marching it. I put the Spanish, took the Panzer out of here, so it's 1, 2, 3 into Gibraltar 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 to get to there. So he took it out of Tangier, and then he put a Spaniard into Tangier. That's what he did. He did sort of an army swap there. 4706 has 2 sorties. Where is 4706? I don't know where he... $4706. Where's 4706? I don't even know where that is. Is that? Oh, he moved the Italian aircraft. That's what he did. The Italians were like down here. I was trying to figure out where he moved to. So the Italians were on there, and he was supplying with his convoy. So now he just said, "The heck with that. Let's go ahead and move the airplane into Gibraltar so he can supply overland now. Then he moves. I think he's moving a few units around for defensive. He started to try and move this garrison away, and then put neutrals into the Netherlands. Netherlands joined his side, so he cannot put other neutrals in there. It has to be German units or the Netherlands units. So we put things back, and then he just kind of rearranged things there. Okay. And he brought the German aircraft. Now that the Soviets are back in the war, he brought a German aircraft over there. So now he's doing supply. I think he's doing convoy here. I think we took the no supply marker off of here. The low supply marker should have stayed there, and it should have come off this guy instead. And I think we correct that in a little bit. And he supplies his airplane and the infantry unit up in Norway, not the garrison unit. So now I was checking to see where his airplanes could go. So I tried to fly Bomber Command in to see if I could sneak off a hit on Metz. Did not. He rolled a 5 -1, so he did 2 sorties to me and kicked me out. So no bomb markers this turn. So I escorted this convoy out because I needed to replace it with a better convoy. This is a mistake on my part. I should not have done this right away. I should have carried out my attack so I could figure out if I had to actually bring a ground unit in to protect Trondheim. I didn't do that. Then to compound my problem, I go ahead and I attack down here in the south, which is +1 to... I'm +1 to his +2, which is not going to do anything. So poof. And then I attacked here, this is a mistake. I should have attacked with the 1st Canadian against the Swede, so I know what that result is. So if I have to, I can put the American into Trondheim. So I'm making many mistakes here. I failed that. And then I go after the Swede here. +1 to his -2. I managed to roll 5 + 1 is a 6, and he rolled a 1, so he ended up as a 1, so he was a DD'd, so I actually got rid of the Swede. So I actually got away with it, but that could have been a major disaster. Then I went ahead and tried to attack the Italian fleet, and I set the markers wrong. The Italian fleet is actually at -3. I did have mine right, because I'm +1 for British, +1 against fleet, -2 for the weather, -2 for my sortie, so I am a -2. But the fleet should have actually been a -3. So my 2, I thought he had a 6, but it really should have been a -3, not -1. So it wasn't a 5 to my 2, it was actually a 3 to my 2. And so I should have only taken 1 sortie here. I put in 2 sorties, and he goes, no, you're down to 1 sortie. And I'm up 1. So got that set. Then I do supply. He said, as long as you're escorting, I'm not going to intercept. So I just rang up my sorties on my fleets and my convoys, and we get over to the Soviet subphase. Actions for the Soviets, they move this armored that I had in Bryansk. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to try to move this armored unit. We're going to expend a lot of resources to do it. We throw in an armored, we throw in a guards. On the guards unit, we're going to throw a tanks marker, and then we're also going to throw in a heavy artillery, and we're going to throw in our airplane. So what does that all add up to? That's 2, 4, 5, 6, 7 minus 1. It should be plus 6. He's a plus 3, and I'm a plus 6. Plus 7 minus 1 for the weather. Plus 6 to plus 3, you know, I should get a retreat, right? I rolled a 1. So I ended up with a 7. He rolled a 2. Which is enough to just hold. So I lost all that. I rolled a 5 for my heavy artillery, which actually affects how I use the rest of my chits here. So then I was like, well, I'm just despondent there. So I just went ahead and did this assault here from these guys. So it's 2, 4, 5 minus 1. So it's plus 4 to plus 2. And I actually did get a retreat. So I move this guy down here, and then we go after the armored unit, which is again that plus 6 to plus 3. And I did get a retreat, I think. Yes, and I went ahead and charged in with the armored unit. Pulled those things out. Had to take this infantry unit and plug that swamp hex because I don't want the Germans just walking across there and threatening to run around behind me. So we go for another 2 hex attack. These attacks down here, if I can push this armored, if I'd have pushed this armored unit here, this guy, where's my? If I'd have pushed this armored unit and then pushed this infantry unit, I could have ended up with the threat of actually like cutting these guys off. In the south, he would have to seriously think about just getting out of Dodge so that he doesn't have his army get out of supply. As of right now, I'm not really threatening any of that. So I went at this. I think it was only plus 3 to plus 2. Plus 4 to plus 2. And failed miserably again with a 1. Kind of holding up the line. I do a 3 hex attack on the south. I don't know why we're flashing on those things. So I did a 3 hex attack in the south here. Which failed miserably to push him out of the mountains. Where is that number? Yeah. So we both rolled 6s on this mountain attack. So, I mean, I rolled the best I could. I rolled a 9. And if I could have gotten him to roll like a 1, then he would have been DD'd and I would have eliminated the unit. And then we go after this one here in the... We're going after this German unit here. I managed to get myself up to a plus 4. And rolled an 8, and then he rolled a 1. He had thrown his tanks in, and the tanks actually saved him, because with his 1, if he only had the 1 plus 2, he would have been a 3, and that would have been a DD, and I would have taken Kharkov. The tanks prevented that, forced it to be a DR, so all he uses flipped. And since he's in supply, he's just going to be able to flip him back over. So that didn't work for me. I started to move that guy forward, and then realized I didn't want to do that. I backed him off because I wanted to move this guy here that helps defend that whole southern border better against any German adventurism. Right, and then we go into the no supply phase. Nobody removes anything. Replacements for the Axis. You're going to see the map bouncing around while he's replacing airplanes and his convoys and his Italian fleets, all that kind of stuff. Where are we at? Yeah, now he's getting his airplanes. Now I'm doing the West, so I flipped over the Americans and got all my sorties back on the American stuff. Now I think I'm paying for the British. Bring back Bomber Command, bring down Fighter Command, or the first RAF, I should say. I don't know where Fighter Command is. It must be in Norway. And yeah, I got a convoy freed up in the Arabian Sea because I felt I would need the sorties before too long. We're in the build phase, so he now builds his Luft Reserve in Kiel, and he puts Vassal, the garrison, in Königsberg to help give him a little bit of a reserve to the north there. And then he moved his eliminated unit into his mobilization box so he wouldn't forget. In the west, I put the British 8th Army into Belfast, because why not? And then built the... What was I doing up here? Did I build anything up here? Oh, he had forgotten to take down his sorties for his German aircraft up there. Then in the Soviets, I built an armored unit. We have to fix that. That armored unit should be flipped over that I just built in Belaluki. And when we were talking about when I was building my convoy, I told him, I said, I should have put the armored unit here and the convoy there, and that's immediate threat of invasions into Sebastopol. If we get poor weather next turn, so you have to defend it. And he's like, yeah, well, we didn't do that, so we'll just stick with what it is. There's no victory, and we go to end of turn, which is where we're going to get stuff in here from the turn track and here. So from the turn track, Germans get back their tanks, their submarines, their surface action marker, and their heavy artillery. The West gets a tanks for the 3 tanks for the Soviets, an Ultra for the West, surprise attack marker, the 12th Fleet that we'll be able to build, and the Russians get a surprise, the Soviets get a surprise attack marker, and we are done with all of that. This. We go into the weather track, bring that up, and then he's going to roll the weather here. For the January, he rolls a 5, 5, and a 5. If you look at the chart over here on the right, a 5, 5, and a 5 does this to the weather. Severe, severe, severe. So, no surprise invasions from anywhere, because you can't invade in severe. Not going to be a lot of movement on the front, because severes pretty much is just a bunch of retreats. Going to be a whole lot of no armor bonuses, no aircraft bonuses. A whole lot of nothing is going to happen here real fast. And that's going to be what happens next time. Okay, so that's the end of the log file. That's the end of this particular video. Why do I keep doing that? Yeah, that's the December 1943 turn in the C.U.C.U campaign. Again, this is using the Vassal module, not the BGA module. Vassal module does not enforce rules, so you have to remember what the rules are and enforce them between the two of you. It does allow you to, if you want to tinker with the rules, it's much easier to tinker with them in Vassal, because all you have to do is have a written note of, what you're changing or whatever, and just implement it that way and see how it affects the die rolls and things like that. I will be updating this module, I don't know when, but soon. The designer has posted up, I don't know if he's posted it to BGG yet, but he did put out a notice that he was going to be updating the setup for 1941 campaign scenario. I think the and then the main event scenario, I think it's only those two. I have to go back and check. But basically, he's changed the reinforcement schedule for the Soviets' shock armies and their armored to be all conditional rather than being fixed to the 41 timeline. And he also changed a couple of the German infantry deployments. They won't come in as soon. They'll come in later. So it will make a little bit less German infantry available in the Barbarossa campaign timeframe. The 1941 version of it, anyway. Not sure if it's a good thing or a bad thing. I figured if I can get the setup module, it'll be like an optional main event or something. It'll be like, or new setup rules main event. I don't know how I'll name it. I'll name it somehow so that it's not the one that you might be used to playing with. It's something that's coming out new, and we'll maybe get some play tests in through using that and see how it works. There's also supposed to be a change to the diplomacy rules, which he posted up in a separate post. Since I don't inform the diplomacy rules, not a problem. You just have to read the rules and do whatever they tell you to do there instead of, what you're used to doing. So that one's easy. The setup ones, I'd like to have it so that people know what the setups definitions were by the designer, so they'll be in a separate setup file. Ultimately, down the road, if that becomes, the black and white in the playbook, then we will permanently update those setups. One thing about the Vassal setup files, if you pull up a scenario and you don't like the way the units are sitting there, you can just pick them up and move them around. There's no stopping you. So if you don't think that that's the proper deployment or for play balance purposes, you want to change things, you can certainly go and do that, and it's not that big of a deal. So if you've read those posts, you can actually just go do that with the setups that we have. I was just going to try and I have to make a change to another setup file, and then there were a couple other things I was going to try to tinker with here. So I figured while I'm there, I might as well just go ahead and make those kinds of setup files for everyone to try and use. If you do pull up a different setup file, than whatever the newest one is, all you have to do is find out, look in the playbook or in the errata file, see what he's changed, and just go adjust everything on your Vassal screen and you're fine. In the BGA module, it will not be that way because someone has to go in and update all that kind of stuff in the BGA module, and I'm not sure exactly how difficult that is. I know that the BGA modules have a lot of moving parts, and you have to kind of pay really close attention to what you're doing. Okay, enough of me jabbering. That's the end of this video. I'm Dec43. If you like what you see, hit the thumbs up button. Go ahead and subscribe and hit the notify button, and you'll know when I'm going to update another video or I'm going to do another live stream. Excuse me. And until we meet again, stay safe and bye-bye.